A few months ago, I quit my full-time job. What started out as an abundance of time to pursue new opportunities quickly turned into daily YouTube binges and staying busy without accomplishing anything meaningful. You'd think that the downward trend of my bank account would give me some motivation to turn things around, but I couldn't seem to find the time or the energy to make the progress I needed. That's when I came across the dopamine detox trend. If you haven't heard of it, the concept is simple. Remove everything that triggers dopamine release for some arbitrary amount of time, and then you regain self-control and achieve lifelong success. Or so I thought. No food, no entertainment, no technology. I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it the whole 72 hours, but then it happened. Enlightenment. No, actually I was just really freaking bored the whole time. But I have to admit, there were some benefits that came afterward. I've lost 5 pounds in 3 days. That might not be healthy. For the first time in a while, I started craving fruits and vegetables again.
Why are you eating stem first?
This is a new food for me. How else should I eat it?
Simple pleasures seem to have a whole new meaning.
What happened?
I oddly looked forward to reading before bed, but I was most impressed with this. So my sleep schedule completely reset itself after only 2 days. I'm getting better energy scores and sleep scores than I've ever gotten before. I'm having less anxiety throughout the day. It feels really good to sit still and do nothing, and yet I'm feeling more creative and excited to get stuff done, which is an odd combination. Okay, so there are benefits from doing a detox, but you need to understand the problem that other detox videos don't want to show you. Relapse. After the initial detox, I slowly started adding stimulation activities back into my routine. Educational reading and videos, healthy foods, and so on. But as soon as I started adding just a little bit of YouTube into my routine again, I binge watched an entire week's worth of content. Oh, this doesn't work. And I started to think that I was the problem and that I was doing something wrong. But I found out I'm not the only one.
I'm thinking about doing it again soon, to be honest.
The more accessible the dopaminergic activities are, the easier it is going to be to relapse.
So the problem with doing just the initial dopamine fast is you can't realistically do it forever, and so the benefits pretty much stop there. The question we should be asking is, what's really going on inside our brains, and can we actually control it? So in order to fix my YouTube problem and the dopamine detox trend, I dove into the research. In other words, I watched a lot of Andrew Huberman videos. So here's a crash course on what I found. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure, but actually the chemical of motivation. When we anticipate pleasure, our dopamine levels rise up, but our tolerance rises up too, which means in order to keep the good times rolling, we have to keep upping the dosage or else we crash. So the key to endless motivation is to keep our tolerance low and our dopamine sensitivity high. Otherwise, we risk going through life unmotivated and generally uninterested, only looking forward to the next TikTok to get our next hit. So doing a dopamine detox will provide a hard reset to your tolerance. Now here's how you can make it stay put. Just like a casino traps you in their perfectly curated environment, we want to apply the same tactics for our own surroundings. If we can't get our environment right, we've got no shot at making this sustainable long term. Whatever we want the focus to be on should be the brightest and most obvious, and all other distractions should be tucked away. We don't have to completely get rid of them, but hiding them from plain sight and adding barriers will ensure that we have clear intent before using them. So this thing's pretty cool. Let me see your phone. So anything that you just want to remove from distraction, you put in the box, set the timer, and now the only way to get it out is to either smash the box or wait for the timer to run out. Dude, is Little Caesars calling you?
I really need to answer that, man.
Now here's one that I know we all need, which is layering, or not layering. How often are you watching Netflix while also scrolling on your phone? Or you start out with some background music while working, then you get bored and turn on a podcast. Then eventually you're watching full-length movies just to cut through the boredom. This is a classic sign of overstimulation, and at this point our tolerance is through the roof. Think about it. When was the last time you ate a meal or stood in a line without looking at your phone? You're probably on the toilet watching this right now. So if we don't randomize those dopamine layers, our tolerance goes up, and soon enough we're right back in the addiction cycle. TikTok is built like a slot machine for a reason. Our brain loves to receive stimulation when it's least expecting it.
The key thing is to make sure that the peak in dopamine doesn't occur too often and start modulating that somewhat at random.
So for example, don't use pre-workout every time you go to the gym, and maybe don't go out for celebration every single time something good happens. Otherwise that becomes the new normal and you'll have to keep upping the ante every time. Keep it simple and just flip a coin to decide. So it's my birthday today. Let's see if I get to celebrate. Maybe next year, I guess. Okay. So if all of this is sounding like more effort than you'd originally hoped, that's okay. And actually it brings us to the unglamorous point of this whole video. Effort is the goal. This is essential to remember because there's something about dopamine that I didn't tell you before. We know that dopamine is released when we're anticipating pleasure or wanting more, but an easily forgotten purpose of dopamine is to avoid pain. Maybe you're avoiding the stress of work, or in my case, the fear of failing in a new career. And by giving in to all of these distractions, we never actually face our own emotions. So the real issue with the dopamine detox trend isn't whether or not it works or for how long. The issue is that we're trying to solve the wrong problem in the first place. Doing a dopamine detox isn't supposed to remove our discomfort altogether. It's supposed to make the discomfort feel more rewarding. So the dopamine detox is a great kickstart for motivation and self-control. But this mindset is what's allowed me to sustain the benefits of the initial detox without requiring year-round fasting. So when things are difficult, if you can remember that effort is the goal, or literally sometimes I'll just tell myself, it's working, then our brain will actually help us out by releasing dopamine. Because deep down, our brain actually does want to reward us for putting forth effort if it gets us closer to our goals. We just didn't notice before the detox because it was below our tolerance. Now here's the really exciting part about this whole process. Now that you've removed all of the unnecessary distractions in your life, you get to replace them with things that actually matter to you. The best way to stay away from distraction is to have something worth pursuing. Maybe you already know what that is, and if not, now you have the time and the dopamine sensitivity to find what really excites you in life. Imagine you were given an extra 7 hours of awake time every day. That's an extra 20 years over the course of an average lifetime. So during this process, you can ask yourself, do you want to finish your life having consumed a lot of media, or do you want to create something of your own to share with the world? Is this distraction actually what you want, or are you just avoiding discomfort? Do you want to be proud of how you look and feel, or do you actually want those 12 donuts? If you just lean into discomfort, you may never have to detox again.